slightly different segment than we have done at the previous episode. We're going to try and do these topical episodes covering things that are relevant to autocross currently, including class changes and cars moving to different classes and new cars. A big thing that we're going to cover today is tires, specifically 200 treadwear competitive tires that you'll find in street and street touring classes. You could also run them in any NASA class that you wanted. These are just things that we feel like people will typically end up buying, and this is kind of relevant to your average autocrosser. Obviously, not all of these are going to be competitive, and we're trying to look at this in the light of not everyone is trying to compete nationally. Some of these things that we're taking into account are longevity of the tire, the price of the tire. A lot of people that have these will probably end up running them on the street as a daily driver. So taking that into account, the tires we're looking at right now are...
by the way, these tires, we looked up the prices in a 205 50 15, which is the size that you can get the last year's top tires, the Rival S and the RE71R, except for the RS3 V2, which is a 195. So, Kumo V720, Hankook RS3 V2, Dunlop Star Spec Z2, RE71Rs by Bridgestone, the BF Goodrich Rival S, and the Toyo R1R.
What's everybody running next year? I know we're running the V720, and that is based on...
Nothing.
No, nothing at all.
Price.
Absolutely.
Based
It's
on
cheap.
internet.
Because they crush all
based
their
on
price.
interwebs, and you can't put anything in it that's not true. And I saw somewhere that they're the best tire.
And I legitimately have heard from a source that I can't cite, but that it was supposedly the V720 was faster than the outgoing V710 and potentially even the RE71.
Which was an Archon.
Yes, and potentially faster than the RE71R. He and I are taking the big gamble this year, and on my H Street Fiesta, we're going to run those. I think at a 215 or a 225. I don't know.
So I'm running an STS Miata, and we are on the Rival S. We went through a
Great
set
tire.
and a half. Oh, it was a great tire. Yes, it did very well. We ended up having to get a second set, 2-driver car. Every event we could make it to.
Yeah. Obviously, I know your co-driver pretty well, and I was under the impression she was not at all happy about the performance of the tires when they were really new. Like because you guys put them on right before a national event.
Yeah, and we did the test and tune.
And they basically came in throughout the weekend, didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it took them a minute to get up to speed.
Yeah.
Was it heat cycled when you get it?
No.
So you didn't have them scrubbed in either, and that's...
No.
But I know she at least, I don't know about you, she took a couple of passes at the Friday test and tune and everything as well. I mean...
I thought they were ready to go by the end of Friday.
How do you like the Rival in rain?
It's good. Very good.
I think it's
extremely good.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I had caught the... there was the Pro Solo, I think, or was it the Champ Tour that had like the big puddles at the end in the slalom?
Yeah.
And I was catching people. I don't know if I just trusted them more or they were actually the better performer in that like hydroplane situation. But I mean, it was like you just go into it and it just kind of
took it.
It did it, yeah. I mean, they were great in the rain.
Okay, I will be running RE71R again this year.
Did you run that all year?
Yeah.
How was the wear on that? Because I've heard less than awesome things.
Probably live up to the reputation.
It's not the best tires for wear. I was running it whole season without flipping till very end of the season.
And lots of people drove your car.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just autocross, right?
Just autocross.
Yes.
Couple 3 concrete event. That's kind of wear out the tire very quick.
Yeah.
I think
and
you
concrete
notice,
in Wilmington's is rough on them.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you notice that people that gravitate towards the RE71Rs, they just want speed at all costs. I think the least important item on their checklist is wear. And it's not cost. It's just what's the fastest tire, and it does have contingency.
In the street category.
In the street category.
Or as a street tire.
And it's not saying that it is the fastest tire, but that's what their goal is.
Is the R1R even relevant anymore?
If it is, it's only ever shown to be relevant for one car and one specific size.
And that was a while ago.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the only car that everyone loved it on. I've seen other people have ran them. You've campaigned them before. I don't think you were particularly pleased with the way they held up.
I ran them on an STX RX-8 in a 255-17 and co-driven. They did not to say they did not take heat well is a massive understatement. However, I drove them on an STS Miata and they were just great. I think
that's the one car that everyone it works. And again,
they don't
special size. Or
the R1R can't handle the heat.
Right.
Really, although they did pretty good on the SR.
So it's good for the right setup. It's good for a light low horsepower, rear-wheel driven, balanced car.
I'll give them this. They're ready to go right now, cold.
Yeah, they are. They do not need.
You don't throw away your first run.
No, not at all. A Z2 Star Spec, probably not a super competitive tire anymore. I've been running them on my RX-8 for like 2 years of significant autocross plus a track day. The grip is good. The sidewall is stiff, which I like. I don't like a sloppy tire.
Very stiff.
And
they're extremely stiff.
They have, so they're not maybe quite as fast. I'd say probably on a 60-second course, they're a couple tenths down on just about all the other tires on the list, but they last exceptionally well. If you're on a budget and don't need to be buying a new tire and you're going to daily drive it, I would definitely think about that. RS3 version 2, still a cool tire. I've never been. I ran them on the Fiesta last year. I just don't. I fail to see. I don't think they're any faster than a Z2.
I had the V1s on my SRT4.
The RS3 version 1 was the best street touring tire ever. God.
They love the heat.
Oh, it was the best worst tire ever.
So anyways, the version 2 RS3s, I like them. I don't think they're the best tire. They kind of remind me a little bit of maybe some of the older version of the Star Specs.
Tire, but they were a letdown.
It's like the sequel. It's not as good as the
Yeah, the way they handled, I thought it was very similar in characteristics. It seems like it's a good all-around summer tire for that category. I don't think it's the best in any one of them, but...
what would we say? Because, I mean, I don't know. It's relevant. What would we say is probably the best tire on there? For if you're not going to autocross, if you autocross a little, it's something you do and you like, but we're talking about street tire.
Driving.
Yeah, I mean, for if you just happen to,
Without knowing, I would say it's gonna, as of right now on paper, it looks like the Kuma V720.
Yeah. If you cannot afford to have separate tires for autocross, probably I would go with 720. That will save
so much
quite a bit of money, which you can spend toward entry fee for the autocross event, or get next set. And then you can just daily drive that tires as well as autocross it, and you still have a little more change.
And it is kind of the gamble because we don't really
At this
know.
point, we don't know much.
I would pick it on paper, but it's an unknown quantity.
It's
the grippiest tire. It's
R1R.
the cheapest tire.
R1R, fantastic in the rain.
That's true.
They
don't need heat.
They don't need heat, so if you decide to have a little fun, you're not going to get caught out by a cold tire that's got no grip.
But
I'd be on the fence to say either R1R for exactly those reasons.
Yes.
It does well in the rain.
I had them as dailies on my SR.
It does well in the cold, so if you just decide after work you're going to blow through a back road or whatever, they're good to go immediately.
Yep.
The only thing I'll say is the wear on them is a little not as awesome.
They wear pretty fast.
And I would...
But I had alignment issues too.
Yeah. So. Well, I had them on my RX-8 and it was the same situation. That's why I would be inclined to almost lean on the Z2 Star Spec, just because they don't need a ton of heat. They need a little to really come in. They do go through rain pretty well, and they wear exceptionally well, and they're cheap.
Yeah.
So...
True. And it's probably worth noting also, in general, that for someone who's new to autocross or not new to autocross, OE spec tires you get from the factory, throwing good tires on is probably the best bang for the buck you can do aside from getting seat time.
And I would say that none of these tires would ever be a bad choice. It's just sort of a question of which one is the best choice. But pretty much all of these tires are. I don't see a tire on that list. Some of them are a little bit more situationally specific, let's say, but I don't see a tire on that list that's bad. That I would say I don't want that on my car.
They're all at least somewhat competitive.
Actually, there's one tire on there I wouldn't want on my car, but we'll get into that. No, not that. Not that one. Different one. That one. So two.
Well,
all right.
So we're gonna have that conversation because we have to. Because I don't like the RE71R because I think that it's incredibly overrated, and I'm sure this is gonna make a lot of people angry, and I don't care. If you look, and again, now we're talking about more specifically really competitive, like national level autocross stuff.
Serious business.
Yeah, where people are really, because, and again, so for a lot of people, this kind of conversation won't necessarily be relevant. But if you look at, the RE71R is dominant right now, but there's also not a lot
9/10 of the people on the sheet are running them.
Exactly.
Yes.
Not enough people are campaigning the Rival S, and I have seen people. You ran on the Rival S, which is the bad tire, and not as prepped car. Well, it's not the tire.
It was definitely, everybody considered it, but it was decided that it wasn't by the internet gurus.
Yes.
It was decided that it wasn't the tire to have.
And a less competitive car, you trophied against people that were better on the right tire. With a better prep car that had been in the car longer.
Yep.
So
that's definitely top level competitive tire.
Yes,
it's in the running.
I don't think it's faster. I don't think that the Rival S is faster than the RE71R. I do think that it's an equal, and I don't think people are giving it enough credit.
And it's got a different feel to it.
If it's equal, and if you look at the price, especially on the larger size tires, it's gonna be like $20 difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so then the RE71R is now cheaper tire.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because Bridgestone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Bridgestone's
Bridgestones used to be like the expensive tire.
And with everything you just said, if that teaches you anything, it's to not discount something just because everyone says you're doing what's wrong. A previous version of the Rival S, the original Rival, at the time that came out, that was considered to be the tire. Yes. Everyone said if you're not on that, you're not going to win, or you're just a fantastic driver. Nationals rolls around and you're finding people on Durasia Star Specs.
Couldn't get
rid of
the
people were jumping ship. So Tavis is a perfect example, and the V720 could be another example as well, where you're on the wrong tire. However, you're beating people you shouldn't be beating in a car. You shouldn't be beating them with those tires.
With what you're citing with the original Rivals and the Z2s, it was because of the surface. It's different tires act differently and have different levels of grip on different surfaces.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't tell you. I mean, I don't like the RE71R because everyone talks it up too much. But I think that the Rival S the crazy thing is the Rival S is not even the kind of tire that I like. I like a stiffer sidewall. I like a tire more like the RE71R. I don't like tires with tons of that like kind of wiggly slip angle like the Rival S has. But it's a really good tire. And so I'm sticking with it. And so, are you running the RE71R again on the new Miata that you got?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he wants to piss you off.
Yeah, I know.
It's because they're fantastic tires.
Right.